بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back once again to MiddlePath Online, a dedicated Q&A platform on Facebook page, YouTube channel, and on Instagram page. We'll be discussing today on the topic acts that are permitted during fasting. And joining me again, our beloved Imam Khidir Hussain. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Sheikh, once again for your valuable time. Moving on, our first question to you under this topic is generally the common question that we hear is unintentionally someone has either consumed food or have drank a water or anything along those lines. Is their fasting acceptable?
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. If a person unintentionally, out of ignorance, they drink water or they consume some food, it does not invalidate their fasting. And this opinion is based on the statement of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he clearly says and explicitly related to this issue, "Man nasiya wa huwa sa'im," the one who forgets that they are fasting, فَأَكَلَ أَوْ شَرِبَ, they eat food or they drink water, then in that case, let them remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that moment has given them water and given them food. So unintentionally, it does not break the fast. Nothing for us to worry about. We don't need to pay fidya, nor do we need to pay kafara in that state.
Excellent. Moving on now, the second question to you, one of the other common question is, what about having ghusl in the state of fasting? And it's not fard ghusl, just a general ghusl. Is this allowed or shall we do after once we have done iftar?
So taking a bath while fasting, there is no harm with that. Absolutely not. And a person who wakes up from sleep and ghusl, taking a bath, is an obligation upon them. And the reason ghusl becomes obligation is they might have had physical relationships. So husband and wife and a husband, vice versa. Both of them will have to perform ghusl the next day. So sometimes ghusl is mandatory. Sometimes ghusl is recommended if you're unclean. So in that case, while fasting from sunrise, from Fajr all the way till sunset, it is permissible. However, I just want to mention one point here. We have to be very careful while doing rinsing our mouth, that the water doesn't go to the stomach. We've got to be very careful. And when we're washing our face, the water doesn't enter through our mouth and go to the stomach. If that is the case, unintentional, of course, it doesn't break the fast. But if you really have a bath, and if it happens and you don't really pay notice, then many of the Hanafi ulama, they said your fasting is invalid.
Connecting question to that, what if while doing although unintentionally water might or may go down the throat, whatever the reason is, and if a person is in a state of doubt whether he's consumed water or not, what should be the best approach?
I think the principle here is it's very clear. If something is done unintentionally, whether it's through forgetfulness or as a mistake, then that won't nullify their fast. And there is a general hadith that is applied when it comes to this issue, where the Prophet ﷺ, he says clearly, "Inna Allah tajawaza li an ummati al-khata wa nisyan wa ma stukrihu alayh." That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven for my ummah al-khata wa nisyan, that which they do as a mistake or that which they do forgetfully. So with that hadith in mind, the scholars, they said that if a person while performing wudu, they rinse their mouth and some of that water goes into their mouth, this is done as a mistake. This is not done forgetfully because you're rinsing your mouth intentionally, knowing what you're doing. However, beyond your control, min ghayri qasdin. In our previous episodes, we mentioned this term. Unintentionally, the water has gone, it won't nullify your fast. And the same could apply with ghusl. When you perform ghusl, it is also recommended you gargle and you wash your mouth. But make sure the water doesn't go into your mouth. Unintentionally, it won't affect it. And I just want to mention, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says, when you're performing wudu or having a shower in Ramadan, he says normally you would be quite excessive when you gargle. But in the month of Ramadan, he says, make sure there is no mubalagha, there is no excessiveness. This is what it mentioned in the hadith. Why? So that the water doesn't reach the stomach.
Now, another connecting question to that, especially people living in either extreme hot weather conditions, or for example, when we had Ramadan in pure summer. So due to the weather, just to refresh themselves, they might not intake the water, but gargle their mouth unnecessarily, or perhaps some may say a little bit of excessively, just to keep themselves a little bit cool down, etc. Is that acceptable?
Absolutely. There is no problem with that. As long as they have control and hopefully the water doesn't go in the stomach, then that's fine. If it brings about some sort of relaxation, and we might not experience the heat that certain parts of the world experience. So, those of us living in the United Kingdom, uh, subhanallah, the maximum heat we feel is sometimes 36, and rarely we go above that. But if you experience heat in different parts of the world, then you'll know 45 is a normal day in certain parts of Egypt as you go to the border. So people there, they really feel how difficult it is to fast and abstain from water throughout the day. So if I can recall, there is actually a hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to put water over his head because of the extreme heat, just as a means of comfort, relaxation. And sometimes, look, if you're thirsty and you actually touch water, or some water touches your body, psychologically you feel some sort of relaxation. So I'm guessing from the hadith, Rasul is encouraging us, yes, put some water on your head, and if you have control, then put it in your mouth. But the ulama, they consider it to be makruh. The reason is you're taking a risk intentionally. Should you be taking that risk? No. So we've got to be very careful, inshallah. I personally would say, look, there is a hadith to say Rasulullah put water over his head, or rather take a bath. Sometimes while you're thirsty, taking a bath with lukewarm water will at least bring some relaxation, inshallah.
Thank you for clarifying. But with regards to the bath, there is another question that always creeps in, which is how shall we bath, especially when we're in the state of fasting? Because especially living in the Western society, the concept of having no clothes is common while we're in bath. As Muslim, how should I approach this, especially while we are fasting?
So when we're taking a bath, there are some rules and regulations. And the beauty of the teaching of the Messenger Sallallahu, he hasn't left a single stone unturned, but he's explained the deen. Every aspect of the deen has been explained. So even ghusl, brothers and sisters, there are some guidelines given to us by the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So from amongst those guidelines is that a person should not bath in such a state that they have no clothes on. This is khilaf adab. If a person has a bath without their clothes, is not impermissible, we must understand, but it's not the correct way of doing things. So one of the companions, he says to the Messenger Sallallahu, Ya Rasulullah, إذا كان أحدنا خاليا, one of us is by ourselves, no one can see us, what's the problem? This was his questioning. And it makes sense, because if you're by yourself, no one can see you, then what's the problem? The Prophet Sallallahu, he says, Fallahu ahku. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see you. Is he not more deserving of you being shy from him? Allahu Akbar. Aisha radiallahu anha, our mother, she's the wife of the Messenger Sallallahu. She spent a lot of years with him. And the amazing thing that we find from one of her statements is, Lam yara minni walam ara minhu. He never saw me naked, and I never saw the beloved Messenger Sallallahu naked. Allahu Akbar. Why? Is it because it's impermissible? Absolutely not. Out of sheer etiquette, mannerism. And this is what Islam teaches us. Even when it comes to ghusl, you're by yourself. What about the angels? What about your creator? So for that very reason, it is awla, best that you have your clothes on while you're taking a bath, inshallah. And as we said, it's better. It's not about a matter of fard and wajib. We're saying it is better, inshallah, to maintain this very important guideline given to us by Rasulullah.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, that means it won't impact their fasting. They don't have to make their fast.
Absolutely not.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. Is a person allowed to be in a state of sexual impurity whilst they are fasting?
So if a person wakes up in the morning and Fajr has already kicked in, and they wake up in a state of major impurity, and major impurity warrants that you have a ghusl to come out of major impurity, the fasting is valid. However, the ulama of the opinion that if you're in a state of major impurity, you need to cleanse yourself, rather clean yourself as soon as without delay. And the reason is, brothers and sisters, look, we don't know when death will come to our door. There is no guarantee. And the last thing we want is to die in a state of major impurity. This is what the ulama have said. So for that very reason, we need to try our utmost to always be in a state of purity. If you're in a state of major impurity, you can't even read the Quran. You're restricted from doing acts of worship. So when you're in a state of purity, we need to maintain all of that. Ta'ala. So if a person has physical relationship the night before and they wake up, then in that case, the fasting is valid, but they shouldn't delay taking a bath, inshallah.
Another question that is related to this is during the day today, for example, if we go to work or if we're outdoor, perhaps due to some unfortunate sinful thought that creeps into their mind, and due to that there has been a discharge, does that invalidate the fast?
So if a person, because of the thought that came to their head, inappropriate thought rather, and if it led to ejaculation or the water being released, then in that case, the fasting is sound. It doesn't affect the fasting in any way because it wasn't done intentionally where you physically touched yourself. So it won't be classed as masturbation because istamna bil kaf. Istamna means that the water is released bil kaf, using your own hand. So the hand wasn't used, so it won't fall under masturbation. This is number one. Number two is there is no physical relationship between two people. These are the two reasons that nullifies the fast. Those two things didn't occur. So the fasting is sound, no problem with that, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Now, the next question is, what is the rule of hijab if they are not observed? Does it have any impact on the fast?
So hijab itself, and I just want to mention, if you allow me, hijab is also for our tongue as well. And when I say hijab for our tongue, hijab of our tongue means saying things ma nahallahu an, all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited you from. What does the word hijab mean? Hijab means a barrier, a protection. So someone who wears a hijab, a protection, and they fulfill the commandment of Allah, but they don't control their tongue, bad habits, then you haven't really placed a hijab in front of you. So it's important that we understand that hijab is for everything, not just our clothing, even though here we're speaking about our body itself. If a person doesn't maintain hijab, we make dua that they understand the importance of it. It's important that you do, because the commandment of Allah, especially for our sisters, yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihinna. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them to cover themselves, as well as the men. We don't walk around naked. We don't walk around showing half of our body. No, we have to all maintain hijab, just the way a man's hijab could be his beard and covering also. The woman has a hijab as well. So try your utmost to fulfill this. Just the way you're showing importance to fasting and prayer, this is also an important commandment explicitly mentioned in the Quran. However, if a person doesn't maintain hijab, so, and I want to start off with the male as an example, someone who walks around in just mere shorts. Okay, that's not really maintaining hijab. For a man who just walks around in shorts above his ankle and to his navel and nothing else he has on a summer day, today's weather, for example, that's not good hijab for a man. But does that nullify his fast? No, of course not. It's nothing to do with his fast. But it's not good etiquette. It's not good mannerism as a Muslim. Likewise, for a sister, she needs to cover her body. But if she doesn't cover her hair and then parts of her body are quite open and apparent, it doesn't invalidate the fast, but that shouldn't be the quality of a person. And subhanAllah, I just want to finish with a statement I found absolutely amazing. Don't be amongst the people. The only time you wear hijab is in your coffin, when they put the shroud around your body. That's the only time you covered up, and the rest of your life you didn't cover up. The only time you was ever covered up is when you're put in your grave. We don't want to be in that state. This applies for male and female, by the way. Often when we use the word hijab, we always think it's our sisters. What about the men? Just because the women have been explicitly commanded, men shouldn't be walking around with half of their clothes in the street, especially Muslims. Allahu Akbar.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for making that powerful point. And in fact, as Sheikh has mentioned, we don't need to be judgmental, but rather we need to make dua for each other. May Allah give us and them, all of us, the ability to observe the Sharia as it's supposed to be.
Inshallah.
Moving on, we are coming to the end. Wearing perfume or athar while we are fasting, is there any difference in ruling between genders? And what if the athar contains alcohol?
So using perfume throughout the year, every single day, it's recommended. Rasulullah used to love aitar, using perfume. When you're fasting, if you use perfume, If you have a nice perfume, and let's just mention some of the names. If you have uh, Givenchy, if you have an Armani, all of those perfumes, some of them have alcohol denate in it. There's no problem with that because that alcohol, number one, is not the alcohol that is drank. It is rather the alcohol that is a agent, like you have methane, butane, propane. When you study science, you hear about all of those chemical names. It's just a chemical used as a preservation, nothing to do with the drinking alcohol that is made from grapes, nabir, so on and so forth. So that is out of the question. We can use perfume, whether it's itar or the perfumes that we use. And in Ramadan, we should use these perfumes, especially if we're going out. Now that we're in isolation, perhaps we don't need to. But the men are recommended. The woman, the hadith is very clear that they can beautify themselves for their husbands at home, especially around their mahram as well. But when it comes to leaving the house and wearing perfume, it's something that is best avoided because of the hadith. The question here often that is brought to us is, well, if someone has bad odor, and it could be a female or a male, what do they do? In case of male, it's permissible. But if someone has sweat glands, for example, this is a medical issue, sweat glands, excessive sweat, it's an illness. Of course, they can use perfume. Why? Because it's classed as an illness. However, general hukum is you don't, the females, especially our sisters, mothers, they're not recommended because it is a reason of attraction, and this is what we want to avoid. Wallahu a'lam.
Just to clarify on that point, what if we have an option that has the perfume or attar doesn't have an alcohol and gives equal amount of fragrance? Should we not opt for the best options if there is an element of alcohol completely not there?
I think, look, the name alcohol, it's mentioned, and this is where the fear factor is linked to. So when we hear alcohol, we think, okay, then I've got to abstain from it. But if it's not alcohol and if it's just a name of an agent, do we really need to? That's the question. But anyhow, I understand what you're saying. Look, Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَنْصَابُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ رِجْسٌ مِّنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. What does he say after that? فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. What does the word فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ? Allah didn't say هَذَا halal, هَذَا haram. Nothing mentioned like that. It says فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. Keep a very good distance between you and that which has been made prohibited. So now anything linked to it, maybe it's better what you mentioned there, and I agree with you to some extent, that because it's mentioned alcohol, it might be an element of doubt in it. Maybe it's avoided, it can be avoided, but this is something that is open to discussion. And whatever opinion we take, there's no problem with that. If a person uses something with alcohol, inshallah, there is no harm in that.
Jazakallah khair. And inshallah, hopefully in near future, there will be more products, perhaps as the brands that you have mentioned, they'll be making more products, perhaps without alcohol as well, just to refrain from that kind of doubt. And finally, last question, if you can put it in short, and during Ramadan, we have got an excessive amount of waswasa with certain people. Have I broken my fast? Have I not broken my fast? That constant kind of question going in my head. Oh, maybe I've consumed the water while I was doing the wudu. Or maybe because of this particular act, I might have my fast is invalid. So there is that constant sense of doubt in the mind. If you can give us a thumb rule, what is the fundamental baseline, especially for those people who are constantly involved in this waswasa, and what kind of treatment can they take?
First and foremost, as a believer, I need to acknowledge that shaitan, whose full-time duty, he has taken it upon himself rather, to preoccupy our minds with irrelevant things over relevant things. That's his full-time job, to keep us busy with irrelevant things over relevant things. What is irrelevant? This doubt, uncertainty within our minds. Have I drank water when I was doing wudu? When I was doing ghusl, did water go in? When I was tasting the salt, when I was cooking, did I take too much in? Some people have been preoccupied with that. The principle given to us by the Sharia, this is a qa'idah, a principle in the Sharia, Islamic theology, is al-yaqinu la yazulu bil-shak. This is a very important principle. Al-yaqinu, yaqeen, certainty, is not removed by doubt. This is a principle applied in every type of ibadah. When you have uncertainty, when you are in doubt, you don't remove your yaqeen because of that. Example, so we better understand. If I'm praying a 4-unit prayer, and I'm thinking to myself on the third unit, did I pray 2 or did I pray 3? And it's a common issue. In that case, we apply this principle again. Al-yaqinu la yazulu bil-shak. Certainty is not removed through doubt. What do? You don't say, I prayed 4 or 5. Now you go for the lower number and you base your yaqeen upon that. غَلَبَتِ الظَّنِّ. The fuqaha, they say, whatever your mind goes to more, this is what you base it on. So now look, the general principle is that which is certain, it cannot be removed by doubt. Okay, so you're fasting, that is certain. Now, if you're in doubt, get rid of that doubt, inshallah. And Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he encourages us in many narration that if that happens, then no, you give more preference to your yaqeen, priority, and establish your thoughts upon your yaqeen as opposed to uncertainty and doubt. Allahu Akbar.
Jazakallah khair. That's all what we have time for. I would love to ask many more questions, but as usual, our time is restricted, has restricted us. Thank you very much once again, our beloved Imam, for your valuable time. And inshallah, we are back again with a new episode next day. But please do not forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook page, and our Instagram as well. And if you've got any questions, then please email it to us. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, middlepathonline@hotmail.com. That's all from us for today. Until next time, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.